The Indiana Fever are going to play the Chicago Sky tomorrow, and it's going to be Barbie Doll night up in Chicago. They're going to be the home team, and this one here is going to be getting away from the Chicago Sky. And the reason one, obviously, you have Caitlin Clark, but there's no doubt about it. Lexie Hall has entered into the starting lineup for the Indiana Fever. And what Lexie Hall has done on the defensive end, she has brought the tenacity and the energy and the vibe to take the Indiana Fever defense up to another level. And when you get involved in the Lexie Hall and what are her capabilities, just to shut down the Fever. It almost seems like the Indiana Fever made a trade in the middle of the season, but Katie Lou Samuelson decided she wasn't feeling well and was taking herself out of the lineup. I see it as basically Katie Lou Samuelson really surrendered it over to Lexie Hall. And there's no doubt about it. Lexie Hall has been chipping at the bit, knocking at the door. And with Katie Samuelson getting to the point where she couldn't play, Lexie Hall went in there and got the job done. Now, when I say got the job done, she didn't just do that. Folks, she just centered up with the team and took it to another level. And if you look at the last game the Fever played, Lexie Hall put in 31 minutes. Okay, got in there 5 for 9, 4 or 6 from the three-point line, 17 points, and put the plus minus as a plus 6, even though they won by plus 4. So the Fever are moving in a different direction. You got Christy Sides and Lynn are leading the helm. They've made a decision, and they're going to go with it. And this is kind of changing everything that the Indiana Fever do because you got two situations here. You got Teresa Witherspoon, who was definitely dealt a bad deck. You got a 52-card deck. She's having to play with 46 cards, and I put it in there as the guards are B-rated at the moment. I won't call it anything more than that, but B-rated because they cannot get the job done. Now, you go to the other side of the fence. Obviously, with Lexie, we got Caitlin. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that's going to speak for itself. Caitlin's had a few rough outings, hasn't shot it as well as Caitlin normally do, but Mitchell's taken over and kind of solidified it for her. Caitlin's still going to be Caitlin. Got to cut the turnovers, but I expect her to have a good game in Chicago. Now, the Fever are doing what they need to do if we look at the stats across the board. You know, it's funny how the Chicago Sky, you look at it, they were running neck and neck a little while. And now the Sky have kind of fell back to 11-19. Okay, they've lost 4 straight, and they're 3-7 in the last 10. Now you go up to the Indiana Fever. Well, they're about to get to 500. They're tracking the Mercury for 6th place. There's no doubt about it. They're 9-8 in the conference. At home, they're 9-5. They've won some games on the road, 6-11. Last 10, they're going to go ahead. They go out 7-3, and they're going to got a 2-game winning streak that's sitting there for them to actually run through it. So the Fever have kind of turned things around. We got to talk about Timmy because Timmy is a different player. This one here is going to get you the rebounds when you need it, going to get you on the floor, going to get you fighting, and she understands one thing: defense and rebounds wins championships. She takes assignments. She's a rim protector, and she'll fight it off. I'm telling you. She had a thumb injury, kind of held her back. She's back. Now we've got a 3-headed, the 4-headed, the 5-headed monster. I used to call it a 3-headed monster when you had all the Fever players were sitting there and you were looking at it, and you had, you got Boston in there, you got Smith in there, but now you bring Timmy back and you insert Lexie Hall. That changes things across the board now. Here's the thing that's going on with the Chicago Sky. You know what? My. It's getting a little tough for them. It's got a little chippy. Angel Reese just hasn't finished things up. Got a lot of rebounds, but you know what? It just hasn't been there. And then also the lack of Angel Reese coming to the press conference after tough games has kind of spoke volumes across the board in the media. So they're kind of like on the fence of which way they're going to go. But this is different. The WNBA is fantastic. I always tell you Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark have done wonders for the WNBA. I mean, they've moved them into a different realm, obviously. And with Caitlin, just what she's done and been able to do, it's just worked itself out. But the Indiana Fever are still a super, super strong team. And they got Boston in there. So you go with Lexie Hull. You got Lexie Hull going in there, and Lexie's playing good basketball, but you got to look at it a couple different ways. If you look at what Lexie is doing, and then you add Boston into the mix, well, you got to add that up because now their offense is pretty much solidified. They're moving the ball. They're getting continuity. They're working the ball on both sides of the floor. Continuity is important because, guys, if you can only work one side of the floor, then that's kind of not going to get it done. It's going to kind of make it easy on the defense. So the Indiana Fever have figured this thing out. They work both sides of the floor. Christy Sides is riding high. There's not a whole lot more Christy Sides has to do but let it play itself. Her and Lynn Dunn, they're two peas in a pod. They're going to go with what they've decided to go with. They've got a lot of success this year. This wasn't planned this way, but they're going to accept it nevertheless. Indiana's going to have the All-Star game, so everything's pointing to success with the Indiana Fever. Now, what do you do as far as with the standings and everything you got going? You just got to face it for what it is. The Indiana Fever are locked and loaded. The bench is going to consider up. Dantes has got there. You got Finn Benlay. You got Erica Wheeler, and Samuelson hasn't put herself back in the lineup, but I can definitely see she'll be coming off the bench. I'd be surprised if she was in the starting lineup. You know, we had Smith that is -10, so what do I got? I think Smith's going to play her better game. Boston 8 assists, so the offense is running through Boston. That's a positive right there. Kelsey Mitchell is kind of finding a home. She's been there since 2018, but I don't know if she's had this much fun. And Kelsey Mitchell's just a solid player. You got to go with it. And this one here, I'm going to tell you, Lexie Hull. I mean, Lexie Hull is a straight-up defender, willing to do the dirty work, but the team follows her aggressive defense, and that's moved the three-headed monster one up. So now you got Caitlin, you got Mitchell, and Katie Lou. Katie Lou's playing the 3 and D's, taking the tough assignment, doesn't matter who it is. And she's going to shut it down. Now, you got them going good, and this is going to be hard to stop because my, Lexie Hull can play basketball. She's been waiting for the opportunity, sitting patiently, and she's just a first-class individual of how she goes about her work ethic, and she just gets the job done. So it's all falling back to Angel Reese. I think it's too much for her. I don't think that they're going to be able to get it done. And Money Mike's calls it as I see it. I don't sugarcoat it. I see the Chicago Sky being blown out tomorrow. They maybe lose by 20 or even as much as 30. They'll start out the game with some tenacity, and they'll play as hard as they can. But the Indiana Fever have outpaced them. They've improved on offense and defense. And without a doubt, Lexie Hull moved the Fever up the tier as they manage and beat the Connecticut Sun. So they're beating good basketball teams. They've beaten just about everybody but the aces at the top tier of the WNBA. So in the Indiana, the WNBA is fantastic. You got nothing but fever going. There'll be a lot of Fever fans. It'll be interesting to see if the Chicago size, who fan base has somewhat teetered and almost given up. Obviously, the Sky, there's a no-lose situation for them. Losing to them is actually a win because they can actually have the number 1 pick in the draft. So that's important to the Chicago Sky. So now we got to ask ourselves, which one is more important? Is it the playoffs or is it the draft? You know, you got to pick your poison, and I think they need help in the draft. They need a guard, and they need a point guard. So it's kind of falling where it should. I'd say tomorrow it's going to be Barbie night, but that won't last long. The Indiana Fever will handle the Chicago Sky. The Sky will put up a big effort early, but they'll fade at the end. It's just going to be too much on the defensive end. The Sky are going to have to chase and trail, and the ball movement of continuity. Now, folks, for all of you who are just starting out watching basketball, continuity means we work our offense on the right side of the court. There's nothing there. We're going to move that ball over to the left side, and we're going to try to work it from there, and we're going to send all the offense over there and make the defense shift. Hopefully, we'll get three-point shots. We may shoot it good. Now, Lexie Holmes always, she's ready to go. So it'll be a ball game. The WNBA is fantastic, folks, but this one here, Money Mike will give it to you straight up. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics, and we'll tell you straight out, the Indiana Fever are in trouble on Barbie Doll Night. They're going to be in Chicago, and this one here is going to be bring in the fans, but it'll be Indiana Fever fans. And the Indiana Fever will run away with this one by at least 20 points, if not 30. But we got to respect the Sky because they are pros, just like the Fever. It's just, do they have the mentality, okay, to hang in there and play for 40 minutes? We shall see. I've given you my opinion. I always tell you it's my opinion, but if it turns the truth, I've given you the facts before they have happened. And I always share with you, all things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We are powered up by Fanatics, and we just gave you our prediction. Fever win by 20 or 30, and it'll be Barbie Doll Night, but Fever are going to spoil that. We'll see you soon, but the WNBA, I'll guarantee you this, it's fantastic.